back to part two. So we've got the head back, reconditioned. It had 6 new valves. Where we send it to, which is Cylinder Head Services in Bilston. They'll remove all the valves and give it a light skim. They've taken the glow plugs out. These are the glow plugs, 1 and 2. The other glow plugs they've left out, but they took the glow plugs out, they put a tap through, and these they've put back. So we've got 6 new valves, all reseated, light skim, and pressure tested, so that's good to go. What we've got over here is the new cylinder head gasket, the new timing chain kit, so that's the guides and the bits and pieces. There's a BGA kit, which is a decent one, 3 chains. You'll also need a locking tool for the N47, and you'll need a good quality torque wrench. As I said, these are the 2 damaged thread on the glow plugs. So I'm going to put 2 new glow plugs in there. They're very fine threads, these, and it's soft aluminium, so when they go, they go. Put 2 better ones in. Now, as yet, I haven't stripped this because I've got to drop the sump. And as the lifting points are on the head, I'm going to put the head on first, and then I'll lift the engine up, and then I'll drop the sump, and then I'll strip this all off. Before we put the head back on, we've got to make sure this surface is clean. This is obviously very clean, but there's residual stuff on here from the old head gasket, and getting a blade like this is a good way of cleaning it. Bit of Scotch-Brite, something like that as well. We've got to make sure we get all the debris off. The last thing we want is to have something on here that stops a seal, and then we don't get good compression. Here's a good trick for you. This is a whetstone for sharpening chisels and the like, okay? So I've had it for years actually in this little box, but it's very good to put a bit of oil on it and then use it as a cleaning device on the top of the head. Right, so we've got the surface of the head cleaned up now. The next thing I'm going to do is to make sure that the bore holes, the threads for these long cylinder head bolts have got no fluid in the bottom, because if you get fluid in the bottom, you're going to get hydro lock. They've got to be dry. Now, the way we test this is just get a clean bolt. You should clean them first, and then run it down the bore. So that one is locked straight away. Now out again. We want to see if there's any oil or water. Look at that. So there's oil down those threads, and that is going to cause us problems when we try to put a lot of torque on this. So we've got to make sure they're all dry. So what we do here anyway is use a very long syringe. It's a massive great syringe to suck out as much oil as possible. And if you look at this, whatever oil's in there is going to cause us problems. We've got to get it as much out as we can. Okay, we're now ready to torque up the head bolts. Now it's a bit weird on this car because the first stage 1 is 70 newton meters, and then you slacken off 180 degrees. Then you tighten up 50 newton meters, and then it's 120 degrees and 120 degrees. Now, because that's a really significant amount of pulling on these bolts, we're going to have to tie this to something that can't move. We'll get to that in a minute. The order that we're going to go in is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now this is the 70. I've got an electronic torque wrench here, and it'll beep at 70. I've set that all up already. So we're just going to go to the 70. That's 1. Okay, so I've done all the 70s. I've now got to slacken off 180. And in preparation for the next stage, what I've done is I've put a block of wood in between this pillar, which is part of our lift that the car's on, and I've put a ratchet strap around the block so that the block can't move as I go through the next stage. I'm just going to slacken off the 180 on each one, and when I come back on camera, I will have also done the 50 in the right order. I've now done 70 newton meters, slacked off 180 degrees, and gone 50 newton meters on each bolt. I've now got to do 120 degrees on each, and then another 120 degrees on each. The second 120 degrees is the challenge. That's a lot. So there's our 90, 100, 110, 120. Doesn't need to be exact and scientific, but you've got to be consistent. So I'm going to do that and torque it all up, and then come back on camera afterwards. So head is now on and torqued up, and now I've got it back on the gantry, lifted up to take the sump off. Now I could of course have taken the sump off earlier, but actually it's quite useful having it on because it gave me a flat or relatively flat surface to rest the engine on. So I'm going to drop the sump now, and then we'll take all the old chains off and start building the chains back on, and then we'll go into the timing. When removing the sump, you're going to have to take this engine mount off because there is a fixed thing up here you can't get to. There's one tucked away here. There's also one tucked away on the other side. You need to take off this bracket as well. And when you've done that, we should be ready to take the sump off. There's no gasket, it is sealant, so it shouldn't drop off, but with a little bit of leverage, gently take it off like that. That's our sump off. We'll give that a bit of a clean. And then you can see now why I wanted the sump left on, because you can't actually stand the engine up. Well, you can chock it, I suppose, but it's just a lot easier to get to like this. So what I'll do now is I'm going to remove all these chains and in preparation for the new chains to go on. Right, so we've taken this tensioner off and it's come out. It's obviously broken, it's no good. Now to get this off now, that is a left-hand thread. So you've got to be aware of that when you take that off. Then that sprocket will come off, that chain will come off. And this is the next thing which I'll show you. Sprocket is for the high pressure fuel pump, or the diesel fuel pump. Now this is a keywayed and coned sprocket. This is a new sprocket that's going to go on. And you can see there's a keyway in there. Now to get this off, we need to remove this bracket here and then loosen that and that. We will loosen this a few turns, and then we'll hit that Torx bolt to push the fuel pump back and release the sprocket. So what we've done is we've taken off the bracket, undone that top bolt and the bottom bolt, and loosened this. So now what we do is we'll just tap that, and then this sprocket, we do it a bit more, just tap that more. There we go. Now this will come off and our chain's off. Done. So now I can remove the chain completely. We'll clean up the area, and then in the next video we'll put the new timing chain on and time it up.